Hi everyone, this is German WWII Archive, and I hope you're all doing well. I recently said in a video that I would do a Q&A for 80,000 subscribers, so here we are. I did receive a few questions, not too many, 8 in total, so I will answer them all here. Additionally, I will talk a bit about the future of this channel in the second part of the video. Just a few words about what kind of videos I want to do, some challenges I face, and how long I plan on doing this channel, etc. So stick around if you're interested in that. The questions are timestamped in the pinned comment and the description as well. As usual, I haven't really written down a script, so the answers are a bit unpolished, forgive me for that. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the questions. So the first question is, do you ever had a problem with uploading any German WWII footage, like monetization or something similar? So first of all, I have to say my videos aren't monetized. I am a YouTube partner, so you can donate money through these super comments and you can become a channel member. But I don't monetize any of my videos. If you've ever seen an ad in front of one of my videos, it's because someone else did a copyright claim on it and activated monetization for it, but I never did this. Now, sometimes I get copyright claims. What usually happens is that someone makes a World War II documentary, and these World War II documentaries uses original footage, and the same original footage also appears in a German Newsweek, because that's where it's from. And so the automatic copyright detection then triggers this and say, oh, this is footage that appears in our documentary. I usually refute these claims saying that this is just the original footage, and that usually works in 99% of cases. Sometimes it happens that, though whoever claims has the copyright still says, no, we have the copyright to this. And so on some videos I just have to live with a copyright claim. Usually it doesn't prevent me from uploading or publishing these videos. In some rare cases, it means that I have to cut out a certain segment. Usually it's small, like 10, 20 seconds or something. And if that happens, I put it in the pinned comment. But so far, I very rarely had any problems or copyright claims that prevented me from completely uploading a video. So I'm fine in that regard. Okay, so the next question is, what do you think was the best German division in World War II? And to be honest, I think this is a very difficult question to answer, because obviously the German army during World War II was quite large and participated in a lot of campaigns, and you can probably look at each campaign individually and then, pick a specific division. For example, during the Battle of France in 1940, it was arguably the 19th Army Corps with the 1st, 2nd, and 10th Tank Division that achieved the very strategically decisive breakthrough at Sedan that enabled the drive through the English Channel. So these three divisions, like generally the tank divisions during the Battle of France or the invasion of France, played a very decisive role. And then, of course, if you look at 1944, it's a completely different picture. That being said, I think one of the best German divisions in World War II was arguably the Großdeutschland division, because it was simply very well equipped. It was a Panzer Grenadier division, but it had more tanks than most tank division. It was literally the only division that had a permanently attached heavy tank detachment of Tiger tanks, which was something that no other division had. And, the Großdeutschland division wasn't even a tank division, yet it still had more tanks than most tank divisions. It had completely mechanized troops. Basically, almost every single one of their soldiers was able to ride in a half-track. They had fully mechanized AA units. They had particularly strong artillery units, a lot of self-propelled guns. So basically, the Großdeutschland division in 1944 was basically how modernized warfare should look like. Completely mechanized troops, completely motorized, mechanized AA, mechanized artillery, all that stuff, assault guns, tanks, medium tanks, heavy tanks. But this isn't really because they did anything particularly good. It's more like they were just allocated all these. Germany's resources were very limited in World War II. So the best German divisions were obviously those that were allocated the most resources, that had the most tanks, that were allocated the most assault guns or half-tracks. So it was really more like a question of which division lacked the least amount of material than which division had the best fighting power. And also, of course, the later in war you look, the less powerful German divisions became, because a lot of the experienced NCOs and officers simply were already dead. And by 1945, a lot of, staff officers, a lot of divisional officers, regimental commanders were simply like elderly officers who probably, last time they saw combat was in World War One. Which is also like a very important factor. But generally, it's a very difficult question to answer. But for me personally, I would probably say the Großdeutschland division, simply because of how well equipped they were. And they were just a showcase division of, how the idea of a fully mechanized, motorized unit should look like in 1944. So the next question goes, for the Q&A, is there a minor Axis nation you wish you had more material available to show, e.g. Croatia, Hungary or Romania? And actually for Hungary, all of the Hungarian newsreels are uploaded online in a film archive. In fact, literally all, like starting in like 1910, I think, or something, and then all the way to the 1970s. So I have, in theory, I could literally upload all Hungarian newsreels. I've never actually looked at Romanian or Croatian stuff, which is something that I may do in the future, but right now I still have a lot of, Hungarian, Japanese, and German stuff I want to show. But I might look at it, although I don't expect Croatia to have that much footage, because it was a small country and was literally a puppet state of Italy and Germany. So I would assume probably most of what they will use was simply reused German footage. One thing I wish I had more of, although it's not really a minor nation, I wish I had more Italian footage. I have a couple of Italian newsreels, but these are mostly from early 1943 and mostly consist of Eastern Front footage that was taken from German cameramen. And I wish I had some more Italian footage from North Africa, 1941, 42, maybe even some like Balkan footage from 1940, 1941, that kind of stuff. But I don't really know. I wasn't able to find any. The U.S. National Archive has some Italian newsreel episodes, but again, only from 1943 and from like literally the most uninteresting period, like early 43, or like, May or March, April, May 43, like right before Mussolini was, replaced. And I wish they just had some footage from like interesting periods, like 1942 Africa footage or something. That would be interesting. This is something that I kind of find a little bit sad. But as I said, I haven't really looked into Romania or Croatia yet. I might do that in the future. But for Hungary, I could basically upload all of these, and I already have a couple of episodes that I, marked down for later. So I might upload a couple more Hungarian episodes in the future. Are you a Gooner? I want to hear this in your accent. Yes, I goon every day, because I am known to support Arsenal. I am a heavy Gooner. Yes, I do like Arsenal. But no, honestly, I don't care much about English football. But in completely unrelated news, Werder Bremen is a better club than Manchester United. Just wanted to put this out there. This is a irrefutable historical fact. But let's go to the next question. Do you think you will ever run out of interesting German World War II footage to post? Well, yes and no. So first of all, obviously, because World War II is already kind of over for a couple of years now, if you haven't realized it, there's obviously no new World War II footage being produced. That being said, I recently discovered, and Patreon subscribers will know this because this was from a video I put on Patreon, there is a catalog of German Air Force training films from November 1944 that has a list of all available training films from the Air Force, right? We're only talking about the Air Force. And there were over 500 training films in there. Now you can imagine if the Air Force had 500 training films by November 44, and considering the Army was way larger than the Air Force, you can generally think about how many just training films there were. So there are probably thousands of training films, probably at least 2,000 training films from the Wehrmacht during World War II. Just to give you like an idea of scale, we're talking about. We're not only talking about the 285 German Newsweek episodes, but we're also talking about thousands of training films. We're talking about probably, hours upon hours of raw footage of smaller projects and all that stuff. The problem is not really that this stuff isn't there. It's just becoming increasingly more difficult for me to get it. There's a lot of stuff that I found that is just available on like paid websites that, kind of sometimes ask you for like $100 for 5 minutes of World War II footage. There's also a lot of stuff that I find online that has like really obnoxious large watermarks all over it. There are also some other channels that upload stuff that I never seen before that very aggressively defend the copyright on it. Whether or not they actually have the copyright on it is, it's another question, but they very aggressively claim they have. And if you would upload that yourself, they would be like, almost certainly copyright strike you. So it's not really that I don't have, or that there isn't stuff I want to do. It's more like that it's becoming increasingly difficult for me to get the footage I want to. That being said, I still have a lot of stuff. There's also still a lot of like, Japanese and Hungarian footage I want to do. There's still, at least a few dozen Newsweek episodes that I find super interesting, so I won't run out of stuff to post anytime soon. But I also don't have infinite amount of footage. It's not like I can do this for 10 more years without running out of footage. I will also actually talk about this a bit more detail in the second part of the video, where we'll talk about the future of the channel. So if you're interested in that, definitely also listen to that. But yeah, for now I'm fine. But there is indeed some difficulties, and if you have any interesting World War II footage, just feel free to drop me an email, send me an email, or contact me on Discord, or write in a YouTube comment, and I'm always interested, because sometimes people send me footage which I can then put on the channel, and I'm very grateful for that. So if you have any, again, feel free to message me. I have a request rather than a straight question. I would love to see more Tran and Helle films if you can find any. I've seen other channels that reproduce them with English voices, and to my mind this loses the authenticity of the films. Keep up the good work, and here's to 100,000 subscribers. Well, I don't really know if I'll ever reach 100k. It really is largely dependent on the whims of the YouTube algorithm. But it is possible that I'll reach 100k, maybe. If the YouTube algorithm randomly decides to give me a few 100,000 more views, then maybe one day. As for the Tran and Helle ones, actually I do have a couple more. There is one more Tran and Helle episode on my Patreon if you're really, really interested in them and, have $5 to spare. Please go subscribe, I need money. But I do have a couple more, I think 4 or 5 as of now. And there's probably a few more that I could find if I would look through my German WWII films. But yeah, I also find them very funny. Not all of them. The problem is always that some of these episodes are a bit hard to translate because they contain a lot of like German wordplays and a lot of like German humor, which not always comes through. So some episodes are probably not that interesting for an English audience because again they have some German wordplays and jokes that are hard to translate. But I can definitely see myself uploading a couple more episodes in the future. But they're not really all that high on my priority list right now. I feel like I already did the most interesting or funny ones. But definitely in the future I'll upload a couple more of them. For the Q&A, a lot of history channels have recently been banned from YouTube. Are you not afraid yours will get banned? And what do you do to make sure it doesn't get banned? Now this is actually a very interesting question. And there's a couple of channels that had a lot of subscribers, like HWK97 Carbine, I think was his name, that uploaded like small snippets of World War II footage. Dr. Ludwig recently got banned. Probably may have heard of this. Very famous channel that uploaded German songs, folk music, and all that stuff. Now, before I say anything, I don't work for YouTube. I don't have any special connections to YouTube, so everything I'm gonna say is more like speculations or my own personal opinion. I don't really have any problems with getting stuff banned. I think the last time a video of mine got banned for hate speech was like 1 year or 2 years ago, so recently I don't really experience any problems. Now, YouTube is a company that wants to make money, and they make a lot of their money through advertisement. And obviously, what YouTube doesn't want is to, make their advertisement customers angry. And it is perfectly understandable that someone who, advertises their products don't necessarily want their advertisement to be shown in front of World War II propaganda films. Now, we know for us this is just historical footage and yada yada, but for someone that, maybe doesn't really have a connection to World War II, and, they see an advertisement especially for an American product in front of, I don't know, a Nazi propaganda newsreel from World War II, and they're like, oh, why is this company supporting Nazi propaganda? And then maybe, if some politicians get wind of this and then they, criticize YouTube for supporting Nazi propaganda, whatnot, I can see how this connection can become a bit critical. So I can see how YouTube is careful with that. Some people say that YouTube has this hidden agenda, that they want to suppress history. I personally don't believe that. I believe that YouTube just wants to make money. And so they're very careful. And personally, from a business perspective, I wouldn't be surprised if YouTube say, okay, we don't want any World War II footage or any war footage or any controversial content at all on our platform. I wouldn't be surprised if they would say that, because it makes sense from a business perspective that if you want advertisement on your platform, that you would ban anything controversial from your platform. Now, why doesn't my channel get banned? Again, I don't really know how YouTube exactly works. But there are community guidelines. And I think a lot of people upload stuff on YouTube and they don't actually read these community guidelines, and then they get banned and then they complain about. And I think, I don't want to put the blame on anyone, but seriously, YouTube has rules. Read them. They're not that long. It's a couple pages long. And one thing they say in there is that when YouTube looks at a channel, they look at the entirety of a channel. They look at the channel name, the channel description, the channel banner, like the general feeling of the channel. And I think that something that my channel does, it has a pretty dry name, like German World War II Archive, but it also has a pretty neutral, scientifically sounding name. I don't know, I'm not a professional historian, and I wouldn't call myself professional, but the entire makeup of my channel is somewhat professional. I have, contextualizations. I manually check every comment, so I make sure there aren't any weird neo-Nazi comments that just praise the Nazis. So the entire makeup of my channel, the entire feeling of my channel is a little bit dry, maybe, I know that, but it's also very, professional and neutral. And a channel that is named German World War II Archive, you know what to expect. But a lot of channels are named in a weird way. I don't want to, criticize Dr. Ludwig for how he names his channel, but Dr. Ludwig sounds less official than, for example, German Historical Music Archive, right? And maybe if he had named his channel German Historical Music Archive and had made it a bit more dry and a bit more professional archive sounding, maybe it wouldn't have gotten banned. I don't know. This is just my opinion, right? I see a lot of World War II footage channels that don't really present themselves as a neutral or professionally archive thing. And I think this is something that helps me not getting banned. Right? But also one more thing to keep in mind is that YouTube runs on bots. I don't have the exact number right now, but there's millions of hours of footage uploaded every day to YouTube. It's completely unrealistic to expect humans to look over all this stuff. Right? And people always complain, oh, YouTube uses bots. Yes, of course they use bots. So whenever something gets banned for hate speech, it's because some bot decided that this is hate speech. And with World War II footage, technically they are right, it is hate speech. Now, I don't upload this as a hate speech, but if a bot says, oh, this is hate speech, we ban this, I can understand the technical reasoning behind it. And I can also understand that YouTube doesn't have enough staff members to, look into it. And I think if you refute some of these hate speech things, then just another bot looks at it. And yeah. I've watched a YouTuber that has 10,000 subscribers, and I got very angry that YouTube doesn't personally respond to him and that they don't have humans looking over it. And I think dude, you have 10,000 subscribers. And even I have 80,000, but that's not a lot. I don't think YouTube really cares for any channel that has less than 1 million subscribers. Of course, if Mr. Beast would get a video banned for hate speech, YouTube would probably care, because this guy, has a lot of pulling power, and this is an important channel for YouTube. But my channel isn't important for YouTube. YouTube doesn't care. They could ban my channel tomorrow and they wouldn't care. So you always have to look at your own position. If you have a channel that has less than 1 million subscribers, you're probably not important in YouTube eyes, and I can understand that. But also, I don't pay for YouTube. So, why should I expect exclusive customer service from a platform I don't pay a single cent to. This is also something that a lot of people, like, they have a small channel, they don't pay anything, they just upload a couple of videos, and then they expect YouTube to, I don't know, personally allocate a customer service agent 24/7 just for them. I mean, it doesn't really work out. So in a way, even if my channel does get banned, I could understand why, and I could understand why YouTube doesn't really care about that. I studied business after all. I studied a business-related thing after all, so, from a business perspective, it makes total sense for YouTube to not really pay attention, just use a couple of bots and then just call it a day. It is what it is. That being said, so far I had no problems and I will continue doing this. And I hope that it will stay that way, but even again, if my channel does get banned, I could personally totally understand it. And the last question for this Q&A comes from a supporter from Wales, actually, and I asked him if it would be okay to mention his name in the video. I usually don't do that because I don't know if people want me to mention their name or not, but he gave me permission and he said I have to practice the pronunciation because he's from Wales. And so I did that, and his name is German Williams, and I don't know, I apologize if I butchered the pronunciation. But anyways, thank you very much for the coffee. He supported me through Buy Me a Coffee a lot, so thank you very much for that. And he asked me if I ever found any footage on German secret weapons that I hinted at being in development towards the end of World War II. And there is actually some footage of that. First of all, there is footage from the development of the Focke Achilles FA-223, which was a helicopter actually, and it was the first military-used helicopter in history that also used or conducted the first rescue mission of a helicopter in history in early March 1945 when it rescued a crashed Bf-109 pilot. It was used for some transport and rescue missions in World War II. There's also footage of some very early AA rockets that are being tested, the Rheinstahl rockets and some other very early AA rockets, ground-based AA rockets that were basically they were pre-aimed at a specific position, and then a computer would determine when an enemy plane would be at that specific position, and then the rocket would launch, which, given the accuracy of computers at that time, would be probably absolutely terrible, but they were never really used in combat. And there's also, of course, footage from the V1 and V2 rockets, test footage. So there's some of this footage from these secret weapons, so to speak, which I will maybe upload when I have some more free time. But most of this is just footage without any sound, just some test footage. But I will definitely upload some of this, and so you can look forward to that. Alright, that's it for the Q&A. There weren't really that many questions, but I hope I answered them all. If you have any more questions or any follow-up questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. As I said before, I didn't really write a script for these questions, so they may seem, or the answers may be a little bit unpolished. I apologize for that, but I started a new job a couple months ago, and I don't really have much free time, basically only on the weekends. So I just didn't really have the time or the energy to write an elaborate 10 pages long script for my answers. I apologize for that. Now I just wanted to talk a little bit about the channel. I've already uploaded, I don't even know how many videos, 220 or something. And I wouldn't say I run out of stuff to do, but slowly, the stuff I wanted to upload and the stuff I found interesting, I basically already uploaded it. After 200 videos, I guess it's kind of natural that you run out of stuff to do. I actually have an Excel sheet, which you can see here, of all the German Newsweek episodes that I've already did, and my goal is to have at least one German Newsweek episode for every month of the war. I never said, and I will never probably do all 285 episodes, because there's also a lot of episodes that are actually kind of boring. So I will instead focus on doing one episode for every month of the war. And as you can see, there's still some white fields here, some time frames where I haven't uploaded one, for example from October 39 or October 1940 or December 42. So The only year where I've actually uploaded one for every single month is 44 and 45. But yeah, for some months I have uploaded all of the episodes, like from June 44, and then again, for like March 45. But so that's really my goal. There's also a couple more Hungarian newsreels and Japanese newsreels that I want. Technically I could always upload more. I could upload like 100 Japanese newsreel episodes, but I don't think that's all that interesting. I will definitely upload a couple more. And then I will also maybe try to see if I can get my hands on some other Axis Nation stuff, maybe some Romanian episodes, Eastern Front or 1944 stuff, Battle of Targo Frumos. If I can find some footage from that, would be interesting. Maybe some like Croatian footage. I don't even know. I have some Vichy French newsreels as well, but translating languages I don't speak really takes a lot of time. So I'll see if I'll do that. There's also a lot of like other stuff. Some, I have newsreels from like the annexation of Austria and the Sudetenland or, Czechoslovakia. I have a lot of like raw footage from like, German fighter units, a lot of like privately taken footage. Like, sometimes soldiers privately took a lot of footage and edited it into a video, like some kind of like home movie basically. It's also some like other stuff, like I have some advertisement or instructional videos about certain planes. I have some raw footage, for example, from headquarters, like the Steinbruch-Anlage, which I think was in Ukraine. It was like the command center of the German Air Force for the Eastern Front, which was in Ukraine. There's some footage from that, some other stuff, which I may or may not upload in the future. But generally, as I said before in the Q&A, it's getting increasingly hard. I know that there are some sources where I could get footage, but most of these are like paid, and I don't really know if I want to forge up 20 or 30 euros just to buy like a 15-minute long video from some random website. Yeah, I don't really know. So I'm not saying that I will stop doing this channel anytime soon, but there may be a time, I don't really know, whether that be in a couple of months or in a couple of years, where I will probably stop upload or decrease the upload frequency. Right now, as you know, I upload one video every week. And yeah, I don't know how long I will be able to do that. I will, of course, when that time comes, I will inform you all of that. But after 220 videos, I kind of did almost everything I want to do. There's also a couple more things that I just don't have the time for. I have a couple more videos that are like an hour long, 2 hours long, and I just don't have the time to do these. I did one with the Rommel one a couple days ago, but that was more like an exception, a special video for 80k, but I couldn't constantly do that. So, and there's a lot of actual training videos or other films that are like an hour long or even 1.5 hours long, and it's just too much for me. So these videos also I kind of can't do. German Newsweek episodes, yes, of course, but they also get boring after a while, and I've already did most of the ones that I wanted to. So, yeah, I don't really know. We'll see. Definitely for now, like for the next few weeks, months, I'll definitely continue. But, I don't really know, maybe next year I'll stop at some point. I don't know, I have to see how it goes, how I get used to my new job. I'm still fairly new to it. Once everything's settled down, which will probably be a couple more months, then I can see how I can manage my free time and then how I can manage my holidays and if I have enough time to continue doing this. Because this is also something, I started a new job. I'm basically busy Monday to Friday. I, leave the house every day at like 7 a.m., 10 a.m. I come home at like maybe 6:30, 7 in the evening. And, I do have some free time, but there's also other stuff I want to do. And now since I also have some money, I don't really know if I want to spend every weekend sitting at home editing videos for the channel. I want to go some places, see some stuff. So I also have less free time to spend on this channel. And if I say I want to do a video every week, it's becoming a duty, like an annoying duty. So, yeah, again. But for now, everything's fine. I still have a lot of videos I want to do, and I have at least until the end of the year. So you don't have to worry about that, but there may be a time where I will stop doing that, but that's not for today. So anyways, that's it for this video. thank you all very much. I hope I could answer all of your questions. Again, thank you all very much for being subscribed to my channel, and a special thanks to everyone who supports me on Patreon or buy me a coffee. And yeah, I hope you're all having a great weekend. See you again soon, and take care.